Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to study Combine in SwiftUI. So let's start by creating a new file and name it as Combine Playground. So Combine is a framework that helps us handle asynchronous events, and it is introduced with iOS 13 in 2019. Combine has three important concepts: a publisher, subscriber, and operator. So publisher is a protocol that declares a type that delivers a sequence of values over a period of time. And we have three types of publisher that we are going to study in this video. You may find some other types as well on the internet, but we are only going to look at these three types. So just is a publisher that provides a single value and then completes itself. And then we have this future, which actually you may initialize this with the closure, and that resolves to a single output value or a failure completion. And then we have this any publisher, which is actually an implementation of the publisher protocol. It does not have any property of its own, but instead it forwards the elements and completion values from an upstream publisher. So we actually, whenever we want to hide the details of the publisher, we just wrap it inside this any publisher, and we can do this we can create or initialize it with the help of erase to any publisher method. So Apple actually provides us some inbuilt publisher as well with the foundation framework. So we have this sequence publisher that we can use, so we don't have to create publisher ourselves. We have some inbuilt as well. We have this notification publisher that we can utilize like this, and of course we have this URL session that we can use to fetch data from the network. And then publisher is just the first step in the combined framework. The second important element is subscriber. So at the end of the chain of publisher, a subscriber actively process elements as it receives them. A publisher emits value only when it is specifically requested to do so by the subscriber. And when we subscribe to a publisher, we receive a cancelable object that conforms to cancelable protocol. And this object actually allows us to manage the subscription. We can cancel the subscription with the help of this object. And if we do not store this object, then the subscription is deallocated, and whenever this subscription is deallocated, it is cancelled. And then we have different types of subscriber. We can use sync, which immediately requests a value from the publisher and then waits for the incoming values to be emitted. And then we have this assign, which actually assign each element received from the publisher to a property on an object. And the third important concept in a combine is operator. So operators are functions defined on the instances of publisher. Publisher have a variety of operators available that allow them to manipulate values received from the upstream publisher and republish them in a modified form. So we have different types of operator as well. We are only going to look at these two. Map, we already know that it's used to transform element, and filter is it emits the element which meets a specific criteria. So these are the three important concepts involved in combine: a publisher, subscriber, and operator. This video is just an introduction to combine. In the next video, we are actually going to utilize the network request, maybe call an API to see how we can actually fetch data using combine. So this is just an introductory video, but we will try to build an example so that we can better understand how we can create publisher, how to attach it with a subscriber, and how we can use operator. And we may have to utilize this MVVM architecture as well. I will actually maybe create a separate video, a detailed video about the MVVM architecture. So but for the sake of this tutorial, we may have to use a view model, so it's better to understand what this architecture is. It's just architecture is just a way of writing code. So model is something that represents the real world entity, like maybe a person, uh, a vehicle or anything, a fruit maybe. So and then we have this view that is responsible for displaying the data for this model. Like if you have a user model, then you may have a user view to display the user detail, and then you have this view model which actually provides data to this view. So maybe this view model is responsible for fetching the user detail from a network request from an API and provide this to the view so that view can display it. So let's start with the let's start and we actually need to have a service in here. So why the service is important? Because in the next video, when we are actually going to fetch data from the network, we are going to write network code. So we need a service in here. So I'm just going to create a combined data service maybe. Okay, and then this is responsible for for network request or something, maybe from database if you have a local database. So it's responsible for the network request or for the database functionality, so that we don't have this so that we can repeat if we need this in some other clause or in some other view model, we can just use it. In a real world project, these are actually separate files, but since we are just trying to understand the concept here, so I'm going to write this in here. But if you are in a new project, you can just create a new file. That's fine as well. And then we have another class which we will name as combine, maybe combine view model or something like this. So now we have two classes. This is combined data service, which is going to provide us data, and then we have this view model which will utilize this data service, and yeah, and then we have this view which is going to utilize this view model. So now let's just see, we are first going to understand how we can work with just publisher. So I'm going to write a function in here, and of course, as the name says, it's just publisher example, so we are going to return a just publisher from here. And if you are going to return a just publisher, you have to mention the type of data it's going to return. So let's just say if it returns us an int, and now we can just simply use just and provide the data that we want to return, maybe 100. So that's it. This is how you can create a publisher. And for this publisher to work, we need to import combine. So make sure to import combine, and then now we may not have this error. So the second example we are going to look is the future. So future publisher example, and of course it's going to return a future. And then we from the signature, you can see we first have to provide the output value and then the type for the failure. If there is a chance that this the failure is involved, you may while processing the data, you may get an error or something. So let's just see, we want to return maybe string, and for the failure, we can actually use an error if there is a chance that it's going to fail. But if you think that this is not going to fail, there will always be a success case, so you can just simply return or mention never in here. So what it does, it makes it just assume that there is not going to be any fail case. And then we can simply return future in here, and then we can use promise in here like this. This is more or less same as the, if some of you are familiar with the JavaScript, future and promise, so it's more like that. And then we can use promise, and when we call this promise, if you enter dot, we have these two options. We can either return failure from here or success, but we know that this is there won't be any error, so we are just going to return a success in here, and we can say maybe future publisher example or something. And if you do have a case where you may want to return an error or something, like in this case maybe we can create another publisher, and this time we may have an error, and then we may have like then we can have future, we can return future from here, and then let's just say if there is some condition like you have this, if user is logged in successfully, if user credentials are fine or something, and I'm just for the demonstration I'm just going to maybe have this like this, but in a real app you may have these scenarios, so if user is logged in successfully, then we are going to return this promise as success, and we can maybe return username or something, or maybe a user data. So instead of string you can just simply return user, details of the user, and in the else case we can return a promise that has failed or something, and for the error we can return anything that conforms to an error. So this is how you can actually work with the future publisher. And then we have any publisher, so any publisher example, and it's same as this future publisher example. You have to first tell the type, the output that it's going to return. So let's just say it's going to return an int, and then the error type, so we can say that it's not going to return any error. And then we have already know that there are some inbuilt publisher that we can use. So I'm going to use this sequence publisher. So now if I let you this if I show you the type for this publisher, you can see that it has this publisher.sequence int never type, but instead of this we wanted to we want to hide the details. So what we can do is simply use dot erase to any publisher, and just like that we have the details are hidden from the outside clauses that are going to utilize this function. And now what we can do is we can utilize this inside our combined view model. So I'm going to create a service in here. Now we have our service, and then let's just say maybe we have a function that's called test or something, and now we can just attach a subscriber to this publisher. So now we have this service dot let's just go with this just publisher, and then we know that we have two subscriber methods, sync and assign, so we can use sync in here. And then further we have these two versions of sync, so we are going to use this completion version as well. And then this so you can call this as completion or something if you want to use this, otherwise you can just use something like this. And received value is int, so but maybe we can name it as number or something. So yeah, and then we can write a print statement in here that says just publisher complete, and then we can print the number that we have received from this just publisher. And we know that whenever we attach a subscriber to a publisher, we received cancelable object. So we can actually create a cancelable object in here, like just publisher cancelable, and it's going to be of type any cancelable, and we can start with a nil value, and then we can just provide this value we can write this like this, so that we have this value from here to this any publisher, and we need to change it to var so that we can assign a value. And just like that, we have our we just subscribe to our publisher, and we can just run this real quick and check if this is working. So for this we may have to create an instance for view model in here. So or let's just say view model, and then we can create combined view model instance. And yeah, and then maybe we have this init in here, and we can call this test. And then let's just make sure that we replace this in the main file, and now you can run it. So we can actually attach another subscriber to this maybe future publisher as well. So what we can do is simply use service.future. Yeah, okay, so our code just run, and we have this value 100, and then we have this complete, which tells us that this subscriber just completed itself. So that's great. Okay, so and then we can use this future example publisher, and we know that this is going to return us a string, but what we can do is we can actually use an operator in here to actually transform. So we are going to get a string in here, and then we can use let's just use maybe string like this. So now we are going to get a string in here, and then we can simply embed something like maybe transformed or something. Yeah, and then we can just attach the string that we get from the publisher, and then we can use this sync to actually receive a value, and then we can simply print it, maybe future publisher example, and whatever string we get. So yeah, so this is how you can attach an operator with a publisher, and then to transform the values. So this is just a very simple transformation, but for example, if you are getting a list of users and you only want their maybe first name, so you can just return first name from here. So convert list of user to a list of only string or something, and then we have to store this value. So if you want to manage the life cycle or manage the subscription, like if you want to maybe cancel it sometime, and then you can use this variable, that's fine. But imagine if you have maybe 5 to 6 publishers, so you have to write 5 to 6 variables. So another easy way to do is use a set in here. So we can use a set of any cancelable, and then initialize it with the empty value, empty array or empty set. And then what we can do is use dot store in, and we can provide our cancelable set. So now yeah, so it's just very easy. So we can write maybe another subscriber in here for the any publisher. So service dot any publisher example dot maybe we can use this received, and completion, or if you don't want to use it, you can just simply use like this. And then we can use this print statement. So any publisher, we can simply use complete in here, and then any publisher value, so maybe a number that we are going to get, and yeah, and then we can use just store it in the set that we just created, so something like this. And so yeah, this is how you can actually work with the with these what I can say publisher. So we have this publisher in our service class, and then we have our subscriber in our view models that are listening for the data. And then yeah, and what else we can do in here is we can maybe provide this data to our view as well. So for this, we first have to conform to our observable object, because we want the view to know that this class is, to observe this class, because it may update itself, may have a different value in future. And then we can use a property in here, maybe a username or something, or maybe like user text or something, anything. And then what we can do is, once we get this value maybe from this publisher, we can update this with this str. And yeah, and then we actually need to use self in here, because this is a closure, or it may not be available once this returned. So yeah, so we have to use self in here. And yeah, and then we can go ahead in here in this view model. Maybe we can just simply instead of that, we can use this user text, but we need to let this view know that this value may update itself. So we have to use this publish in here, which means that this is also a publisher now, and view is actually kind of subscribing to it. So yeah, and just like that, we have our very basic implementation of combined framework. This is just a very basic example. There are more advanced scenarios where we utilize this. So we can, in the next video, we will try to maybe have a service that requests a data from the network, and then we update our view with the return data. So I guess that's all for this. And you can actually use a filter in here. This is an operator, because this is a list of integers. So you can just do anything, like if the maybe the integers that you are getting, if the use case is like you only need to handle them if they are greater than 10, so you can just filter them like this, and just make sure that then there is a value that is actually greater than 50, so that there is something for you. So that's it for this video. I hope this was easy to understand, but if you still have anything, if there is any confusion, any question, let me know in the comment. I actually also will write an article on Medium for this, so I will share a link for you guys. So if you want to read it from there, that's fine. Just let me know if there is something that's not very clear. So I will see you in the next video.